for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and I will open it up for oral communications from the public. Seeing none, I'm going to move on to, chairperson's remarks. Sorry, I forgot we were adding those back in. I missed those. Wow, I'm really loud now. So thank you to Deb for hosting our school committee administration cookout. That was a leftover from our delayed meeting. I'm making a quick announcement that Pine Grove School, which has been under renovation, is actually having its grand reopening on October 5th. So that's open to the public. It's from 1 to 3 p.m. at Pine Grove, of course. There'll be tours. There's going to be ribbon cutting, speeches, all the fun and excitement that usually comes along with grand openings, and free ice cream sundaes. And just a quick last note on the kind of the work that we've been doing, since it didn't fit under any of the other agenda items, and this was an update for us, was that the Student Opportunity Act came out last Thursday. I emailed you all with a quick summary of what's included in it, but it is significantly better for Triton than the past bills that were filed around ed reform were. So I think it looks good. There are obviously some details in that email, but the biggest things were the inclusion of special ed transportation in the special education reimbursement, which is a big one. We've been going to other school committees and to other towns for months talking about how as the circuit breaker threshold rises, it's going to hurt all of our funding. They actually fixed that, so that's a terrific thing. So they froze it basically for this year, and then they're increasing it by a much lower amount in coming years. Minimum aid is in there. They moved the base amount from $20 per pupil to $30 per pupil. And then I think the two biggest things for us are not even in this bill, but it's about what's going to happen moving forward. So it provides for the Department of Education and the Department of Revenue to sit down and look at the how accurate the calculation is for towns' ability to fund their school districts, because that's a big part about our state revenues, is basically they pay the difference between what they think we should be funding our schools at and how much the towns can actually pay toward them. So that report is due by the end of 2020, and hopefully that will remedy some of our local ability to pay issues where they seem to think we can put more towards our schools than our towns can actually afford. And then the other thing is a study on rural and regional school districts with decreasing our low enrollments, which is us. So that'll be great as well, and that is also due at the end of 2020. Both of those are due to come out with recommendations on how to fix those two issues. So even though it isn't something immediate for us, it is there going forward, and I think that's going to give us a good base to build on as we continue our advocacy. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, you have to hit your button. There you go.
I just have a question about the Pine Grove
Yes.
grand opening. Is that a drop-in like it was when we did tours before, or is it a 1 to 3 with things planned for the whole time?
So 1 to 1:30 approximately is going to be speeches and the ribbon cutting, and then after that it is literally drop-in tours. So the plan, rather than have formalized tours, since we know a lot of people will be there right at the beginning, is to have a student and an adult who's associated with the building project in each section of each wing of the building, so that they'll be able to talk about the construction specific to that area in the building. So literally somebody could start in the north wing, someone else could start in the lower south wing, somebody else could start in the east wing. So it'll distribute, hopefully, everyone that's coming throughout the building so that we don't end up with massive buildups with tours crashing into each other in the hallways. All right. Anything else? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
You have to, thank you. You did hit your mic. All right, any discussion on the consent agenda? All in favor? All right, and I will read aloud the donations. Laboratory equipment valued at $7,682 donated by Osram Sylvania Incorporated to be used in high school classroom physics experiments. Gallons of ice cream valued at $200 donated by Hodges 2 for an ice cream party held for Newbury Elementary School students who completed their summer math packets. So thank you to those organizations who made donations. And moving on to the student advisory report.
So if I can just welcome Kaylee as the new student representative to the school committee. So thank you, Kaylee. You are a sophomore? So has the potential for being here for several years. And also, Kaylee is not really famous. She doesn't know it, but Kaylee is famous because she's student number 1. Her last name is Abbott Bishop, so she's forever known to anyone who has access to the entire student database as, that's her. Kim's like, oh my gosh. Kaylee, student number 1. So Kaylee.
Hi, sorry about that. The computers were having a slight issue, so if it's okay with everyone, I'll read the report off. Triton Wi-Fi, sorry about that. Opening day on Triton, September 3rd, welcomed students back through the doors of Triton for yet another year. With new administration, the students were curious to see what new changes lay around the corners. Students were very surprised to hear the addition of birthday pencils to the morning announcements, as well as the new statements of "Stay classy, Triton." Triton class officers are beginning to meet again in order to plan grade-specific themes for homecoming, decide the amount for class dues, and organize other grade-specific events. Triton High School will be opening the doors to parents tomorrow night in order for families as a whole to be invested in their students' learning experience. Students have been asked to help provide support for this event by acting as tour guides, providing technical support, or even making sure that everything is in place to make Triton look its personal best. And then the first professional development day is also being looked forward to by the students. It's a day to be filled with rehearsals, practices, finishing up all that extra weekend homework, and just to simply relax. And then Triton's high school students also, within the student council, plan to hold the annual homecoming events as planned normally throughout Triton history, starting the week before Thanksgiving and running into the week of Thanksgiving as well. This week will be filled with friendly competition between grade levels through dress-up days, events, dances, penny wars, and other fundraisers. While details are not yet finalized, the beginning efforts are starting to be made. The information will be made public in the following months, but it's still in the beginning stages starting this morning. So, thank you, and if anyone has any questions.
Any questions? All right. Well, thank you. Congratulations on your first time. The first one is always the hardest. Absolutely. Thank you. All right. And since we have what looks like the entire junior class set of officers here, we're going to go out of order and move on to general action items which is item 9. We're going to move on to A, the proposal for the parking space painting fundraiser, please. And I assume you three in the front row must be the three on the screen.
So if I can just set this up. So this was a request as a fundraiser from the junior class. When Mr. Kelly came to me with a proposal, I don't think this is something that technically needs your approval, but it's not a permanent change to a building. We thought it made sense to bring this to you to have a discussion and to ask you to approve this, as it doesn't permanently change district property, but it certainly impacts it. So. And I thought it was going to be a presentation from Mr. Kelly, and he said, I have the students coming, and we said, great, sign them up. So, passing the torch.
Hello, everyone. You got it on now. Okay. All right, hello, everyone. Today we're presenting a fundraiser that's a bit unique, a bit different, but we're going to get on to why exactly we chose this fundraiser later on the slides. But today we are presenting parking lot spots as our fundraiser.
So that was Danny Groder. I'm Emily Johnson, and that's Izzy Reininger. So this is the purpose behind the fundraiser that we'd like to do. We think it's a creative idea and let students find their creative side, because as we all know, school is like not the time to bring out your creative side unless you're in the arts department, and we think this is a great idea for that. It causes for class and school bonding because everybody will be there painting at the same time, so you really get to be with your classmates and get to spend some time together. It will also make people actually want to buy their parking spots because a lot of people park in the $1 spots, and if you actually bring this out, people are going to want to buy their spots, so it's bringing money into the school. And the paintings will add a sense of community, and Triton will look a little bit better because of it. As you can see in the pictures here, the schools kind of look nice and bright and colorful, and like everybody's one, and it just looks really creative and nice.
To talk more about the creative aspect, we thought that it definitely promotes individualism and it really invokes the creative side in students. And since not many kids have much of a creative outlet in school outside of the arts department, this definitely adds like a really effective way to, I guess, like show what kind of stuff you're involved in the school and like take pride in that and show some of your interests in a very creative way. And we thought that it definitely sheds Triton in more of a creative light.
All right, so this is kind of like the more mechanics of the situation, how it'll actually work number-wise. So each person will pay $30 per spot. We found that to be a fair amount because you're going to have to end up paying money to cover up the spot in the end. So we're going to set either Saturday or Sunday apart to paint. We don't want it obviously during a school day because that wouldn't work. And there's going to be cars everywhere, so we'd rather have it on a Saturday or Sunday where everything's clear and it's like in a controlled environment. So each student will submit their work before actually painting their initial spot. That way we know there's no vulgar language, nothing with inappropriate connotation to it. So there also has to be proof that they bought a parking spot as well. So each student should have a plastic white parking spot with like the number across the top that hangs on their front mirror. So it's easy, just come by, swing by us, turn in their slip just to prove that they paid for the parking spot. We'll check off their name. It'll be as simple as that. And then we're just gonna paint over the parking spots at the end, and there's gonna be a $5 refund for anyone that does end up coming back to the school painting at the end of the year, because it's going to be a lot of work for us 7 officers to paint over all the spots. So we hope that there's going to be plenty of volunteers. Plus, we do know that $30 is a lot, especially for a student budget, because a lot of kids don't have jobs or are working after school or on the weekends. So a $5 refund will be very nice for students to have if they want to save that extra $5.
So extra incentives. The 2021 class officers will personally, like we were just talking about, paint over the spots at the end of the year with possible volunteers, which would include the $5 refund, with black paint bought with some of the money raised, which that would come out of the chunk of the $30 that people are spending. And then any person who paints anything inappropriate will have their spots painted over with no refund. We'll be there during the day to look over the spots, and if we see anything inappropriate, their spots are going to be taken away, painted over. There's going to be no questions, no warnings, and they won't get a refund like set up there.
All right, so again, this is more like the number aspect of the whole deal. So we expect about 75 students to paint their parking spots. We have roughly about 150 students total who park in the school building, either in the back lot, the side lot, or the front lot. And this will end up generating about $2,250 in revenue. But that eventually will be sucked away because we're going to have to spend that on painting the parking spots back up. So about a gallon of black paint is $25, and it'll cover about 400 square feet. Each parking spot is 140 square feet, so we'll need about roughly 35 to 40 gallons to cover up the whole area. So it's going to cost a little bit, about $900 to $1,000, a little under. But with that, when you're talking about a great number like $2,250 and you subtract $1,000, yeah, it's a lot of money, but we also get a lot of money in return. So it'll generate about $1,000 to $1,500 of profit back to the class officers.
So some other rules that we're including is there must be a 4-inch space between the painting and the white lines to avoid town involvement to repaint the lines. And also the number has to be left alone so it's visible and legible. And the time slot for the actual approved day will be 8 to 5, and it'll be overseen by the class officers, advisors, and chaperones at all times during the day.
So right here we have an example of another school in the Cal that paints their parking spots. It's Georgetown High School, as it says right up there. If you look at the parking spots, you can see the white lines are left alone, and there's a space in between it, which is what Triton will also be doing to avoid the town having to get involved. And you can also see that the numbers are left alone, which we'll also be doing, so it avoids confusion about which parking space is which. And if you look closely at the pictures, it really kind of shows like what year kids are graduating or other things they're interested in, or this particular boy has his baseball number on there. It just really like lets kids show what they're interested in or the sports that they're playing or what year they're graduating, like with a sense of school spirit. And I just think we think it would be a really good idea, and I know that a lot of kids would love to participate in it and be able to show their parking lot like how Georgetown shows their parking lot.
So, in summary, students will want to buy their parking spots and not cheat the system or pay $1 a day, which is not as easy to deal with, I guess. So, this will provide a sense of community and bring about immense school spirit similar to the Triton Day of Giving for people who stay to paint over their parking spots at the end of the year, in addition to painting it in the beginning. And it'll invoke their creative side, and all painting will be covered by the end of the year for new drivers to take in the following years.
If you have any questions, we'd love to be able to answer them as well.
All right, questions from the committee? Maureen?
I love, oh, that's right, I forgot, sorry. I love this idea, I think it's fantastic. Quick question, the students would pay $30 to paint the spot. Does that include paint, or do they provide their own? And do they get guidelines on what kind of paint they should bring?
So the students are going to have to end up getting their own paint. So typically what we aim for the students to do is to pair up with friends, because nobody's going to use a gallon of white paint for their whole parking spot, because they want to use other colors as well. So what we're hoping kids will do is pair up, say, oh, do you want to buy the yellow paint? I'll buy the red paint. And you can always mix colors like yellow and red to make orange. And I can go through the whole color wheel, but I'm not going to do that. That's what we aim for the kids to do, because if we do end up supplying the paint as well, that's going to end up being even more money, because, I mean, you saw how much a gallon of black paint was to cover the whole parking spot. It's an immense amount of money to take away. So it's either we lower the amount of money and just have the kids bring their own paint, or raise the money and supply their own paint, whether they like it or not. Mm-hmm. And typically, so what Georgetown did was they just did regular paint that you would buy at like a paint store. That way, it's shown to work well. We've gone to the high schools. There hasn't been any like chipped paint or anything like that. And at the end of the year, it's going to get covered over anyway, so any chips or any ugly features will get, it'll look like nothing's ever happened.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. Has this been run by Chris Walsh? So, okay. I think it's a fantastic idea. So,
thank you.
Nice job.
Any other comments?
Any other questions?
Linda? No. Oh, mine's on.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So in regards to where the spots are these scattered all over the front, upper, and back lot, or are they going to be confined to a certain area?
So we genuinely wanted to keep it confined to, for the most part, the back lot and the side lot, so that way the front lot can be very clean and like show just like kind of neater, and then the kids like creative like parking spots and stuff will be more towards the side and the back, because people tend to park in the front for like school activities and such.
Also, we need people to park somewhere when they come to paint. So if we can have people painting under the car, obviously. So we're just having people park in the front lot. That way they can paint in the side and the back lots.
One thing, there was teachers that asked if this would be open to teachers, and it 100% will be, but a lot of them are parked in the front. So we were kind of trying to be open-minded about it, and like if this was to get approved, if it was to be approved to be able to paint in the front space, that would be good, but we're also open to leaving it completely clean.
Any other questions?
Go ahead,
I
Brian.
thought you guys did a great job with the presentation. I think it's a really cool idea.
Thank you. We also just want to thank you guys for your time to like look at our presentations.
Do you have another question, Brian?
Just don't want to break anything. So have you considered So we use a company that does the striping and the lining in the parking lot. I think it would be a good venture for the junior class to reach out to that company. Mr. Walsh can certainly put you in contact with them to talk about a potential donation, because you might be able to spend about the same amount of money and have them do the painting for you, because the junior officers painting over 75, 80, 90 spots is going to take more than a day. So just something to consider as you're continuing your planning, because you may be able to do it for the same or even less funds. It's always good. We pay them a considerable amount of money, so it's good. It's good. Yes.
Any other comments or questions? So I have two myself. Do you envision passing this on? Is this going to be a fundraiser that you would kind of pass on to the next class of officers, or?
We definitely talked about once we graduate, since we have one more year left, so we're going to be a little bit selfish and hold it for one more year. So after this, after we graduate, we definitely talked about passing it on to another set of class officers in a grade below.
Okay. And if you do have teachers, are you going to offer them the chance to not paint over their spots in order to keep them the next year for an anticipated donation, or?
Yes, we definitely. Yes, we are. If they pay for it again, then
Yeah.
they can pay it over again.
Right?
You get to keep your spot and your painting, but you have to pay for it again. It's a charitable donation. I would pay for it again.
Lifetime spot for $1,000. Make sure that's on.
You can pay the 1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the fundraiser as presented or amended, working in conjunction with the administration for the current 2019-2020 school year?
I'll make a motion.
Motion?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All right. You have unanimous approval. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Great job. So just to clarify, we will continue to work with the class officers, with Chris Walsh, through Michelle, with Mr. Kelly, just to make sure that all of the concerns that may be raised will be addressed. This will work well.
All right. Well done, and you guys do not have to hang around if you want. We will totally understand if you have other things to do tonight. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go back on the agenda to number 7, new business. Any of the committee members have new business that they'd like to raise? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to reports and deliberations. A, fiscal year 19 year-end report and discussion. I assume this is a Michelle, and I see Amy sitting in the audience, so.
Yeah, if Amy would like to come up and
Up this
join me,
chair?
that'd be great. You don't have to.
You need to kick your mic on, Amy. There you go.
Don't pull it too close then.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Amy. I am the district treasurer, and it's my pleasure to be here. I always come around this time just to talk about how we ended up the fiscal year and the opening of the new fiscal year. And much like last year, the fiscal close went very, very smooth, and that is due in large part to all the efforts of the business office over the summer. The summer is an incredibly busy time in the business office. And I just can't say enough about the strength of the team that we have here, and of course, under the amazing direction of Michelle. We're very fortunate. So again, the fiscal 19 close went very, very smooth, and as well as setting us up for a really smooth open of fiscal 20. So I was very pleased with that process. I just would like to give you a really high-level overview of how we ended fiscal 19, and then we can take any questions that you might have. So I like to think about, when we look at the close of the fiscal year, we look at both the revenue side and the expenditure side. And so if we look first at the revenues, we came in overall about $20,000 less than anticipated. And this was mostly due to receiving less regional transportation than what we had planned on. We did end up receiving more in interest revenue and miscellaneous revenue, which did mitigate that. But that's how we ended up on the revenue side. And when we look at the expense side of the budget, we finished up the year with about $85,000 left remaining in the budget, so that's good. Which means we'll be adding about $60,000 to $65,000 to our E&D account for this year, which we anticipate will be certified around $420,000. And yeah, so that's sort of the high-level overview. And our audit is scheduled for the second week in November, and we'll be very well prepared for that.
We will. Yeah, we just finished closing FY19 just as of last week, so the numbers are still fresh in our minds. And we did a lot of cleanup this past year. The most recent focus was on the student activity accounts, which we are about 90% through. There we go. We're about 90% of the way through. We've had a student activity audit. We've had the auditor come in and reestablish beginning balances for us with this new fiscal year. And now basically we're bringing every school up to date with a brand new QuickBooks and brand new account balances. New procedures, new policies, not necessarily a policy, but new guidelines and procedures for them to follow. So we have tighter controls on the student activity accounts. So most of that happened in FY19. Basically, we're going to start FY20 with a brand new outlook and great controls over those accounts. Another big thing that we fully ended up implementing in FY19 was the payroll system conversion. We brought payroll system in-house. We used to be with ADP, and prior to that, Harper's. We ended up saving about $45,000 overall by bringing it in-house. We didn't have to add any staff because we already had to do all the manual labor to process payroll. So we brought that in-house, and it's actually making our cash reconciliation process a lot easier. So every month that Amy gets to balance her numbers to mine and the accountants, it's a lot easier process. So by doing that, we actually improved efficiency and saved money. So it was a win-win situation. And lastly, you did meet Tony Roselli, our new auditors, this past year. He presented last year's audited financials. He will be doing the audit again in mid-November, working very closely with him. He is not just an auditor that makes sure that we are compliant, but he's also an auditor that will give us lots of feedback and recommendations and is not afraid to jump in and help us out, which is great, because that's really what we need. So yeah, things overall are in great shape. We have a few more tweaks going into FY20, and you'll see a few more changes with the FY20 adjusted budget. Some realignment will be needed with account numbers because the Department of Ed keeps changing their chart of account requirements and reporting requirements, so we just want to make sure we're in line for an easier transition into the next following budget season. So you'll see some more changes, but overall we're doing great. The business office is functioning very well. The whole central office works incredibly as a team, and it's reflecting in all our reporting at this point, in our efficiencies. It's great. Any questions?
All right, so I know a number of us have already sat through this once, but for those of you who have not and have questions.
I have like a question comment, but it's for the group. I remember when Tony came last year, I thought he gave a lot of really great feedback, and I wonder if it might be a good idea if when he's scheduled to come to go through everything like he did last year, if we like formally invite some of the selectmen and the finance committee members from the neighboring towns, because he gave a lot of great feedback that I think some of which we'd like to bring back to the district communication meetings, and it was nice hearing it come from him. And for other people to hear how efficient we've become and that we're doing right by the numbers the best way we can. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
So I know in the past, we've usually had one of the auditor come into the finance subcommittee meeting and handled that there. I don't know if that's traditional other places or what
I would
the usual
say
reporting.
Yeah, I mean, it's really up to the committee and the district. And it's whatever, your preference is. Some committees want to see the full committee wants to see the auditor. Some finance subcommittees will just prefer to have the presentation. So it's really up to what the committee would like.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously he was new this past year, so we wanted to make sure the whole committee was aware of him and what he was doing. So.
Are we still aiming for February? I know, or February, March, right? Isn't that, am I correct in thinking that's the usual time?
Most
frame?
likely, yes. They're coming in for 4 days, I believe, beginning November 12th with a full team, and they expect to be done in about 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, no, they're coming in for 4 days with 4 people.
Okay.
So they expect to be completely done that week.
Still
And then just, they'll be waiting on the OPEB reporting from our actuarial company. That's it.
Okay. So we can discuss that, I think, probably when we get closer to having a time
Yeah.
frame. Yeah.
Riveting reporting.
As riveting as it can be.
I'm not one for the numbers all the time, but I thought he did a good job, and he had some really great points that would be nice for other people to hear
Agree.
beyond this group.
Any other comments and questions for Amy and Michelle? All right. Well, thank you for doing such an excellent job. And we're going to be really sad when we get to item C on the,
We won't
in
talk
the
about
section
that.
of the agenda. We're going to get there soon enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But in the meantime,
Thank you, Amy, too.
thank you, Amy. It was lovely to see your smiling face here. All right. So moving on to the District Communication Committee real quick. I just wanted to rehash this real quick. So by email, I sent to the entire DCC, including the school committee, the updated regional agreement draft that came out of the September 5th, I believe it was. Yeah, September 5th district communication meeting. So there were some changes based on the original draft. I think there was some really good conversation. I know a number of you were there. It was, it was a fairly long meeting, and I think we spent a lot of time talking through some of the very specific items. In the October DCC meeting, the request was for the boards of selectmen and the finance committee from the town representatives to take the draft that came from September back to their boards and have a conversation about those proposed changes that were still in that draft, as well as come up with any new ideas of anything that they might want to bring back to the DCC to propose adding moving forward. Because the original set of recommendations had come out of the school committee, so there's never really been the chance for those boards to be able to kind of make a suggestion of what they'd like to see in there. So that's going to come in October. I would anticipate bringing the draft resulting from the October meeting back to our committee in November to have a kind of real in-depth discussion on where the draft is at that point, kind of the direction, I guess, that it's going in. Right now, I think the goal is to just continue to move things forward, but at some point down the road, the goal is to get it to town meeting. So we need to get to the point where we're ready to move forward and say, yes, the school committee can have their vote on a draft of a regional agreement down the road, which can then go back to the town board so that they can have their vote on a draft in order to move those forward to town meetings. So I think that was it. I don't know if there are any other comments from folks who attended. No, got nothing. All right. Thank you. And now we come to the sad part. C, school business administrator resignation and replacement process.
Yes, so after all that good news that Michelle shared with you about how everything is going so swimmingly, Michelle has submitted her resignation, and I did accept it very reluctantly. She'll be with us through November 30th, but apparently it's too boring around here. She loves a challenge, and so she's moving on to another challenge. I offered to create problems that you could keep solving, but she didn't take up the offer. So in the interim, I was faced with the decision to advertise now for a December 1st start or put some kind of interim arrangement in place. So certainly lots of discussion with Michelle, with Amy as the treasurer. And all of us believe that and I would say, I'll speak for myself, that at this point, advertising to find a permanent replacement at this point in the year is just not good. This is not when the majority of folks who may be looking to switch, whether it's new to the job, changing districts, this isn't generally when it happens. So if we want the best candidate pool, then we want to do that. I want to do that advertising in January. So basically by March, a contract is extended, and hopefully someone is buttoned up and ready to start on July 1st. So in that scenario, then we have to have some interim arrangements. So we've spent a lot of time talking about this. I'm not prepared to say a name to you tonight, but there is an individual who we've been speaking with who is a retired business manager, assistant superintendent, and superintendent who does interim business management work. He knows the systems, he knows the needs, he knows the responsibilities. And so that's where we're leaning right now. I believe that is, I will come to you on October 16th, and hopefully we'll have everything buttoned up to be able to introduce this person to you who I'm proposing. It will not be full-time when someone's coming in on an interim arrangement. It is not a per diem rate of a typical full-time employee. It's significantly higher. This individual has been very reasonable as far as the rate, but it's not something that we would be able to afford 5 days a week. So we're looking at 2 days a week, perhaps 3. Having Amy in the office, obviously 1 day a week currently, could that adjust? As Michelle did mention, we have an incredibly capable, we'll call it the business, entire office, everyone included, but specifically in this regard, the business office out front with the accountant, and then the clerk and the receptionist who's also doing more business office clerk work as well. So we've got wonderful people and facilities and food services and benefits and payroll. And so, you've arrived as a leader if you could drop off the face of the earth for 6 months and things would continue to function. So maybe not completely, but I believe, the goal will be, Michelle has been innovating, right? We've been refining and innovating, and we are in an incredibly better place today than we were 3 plus years ago when she came. We're not going to make that kind of progress between November 30th and June 30th, but the goal, as this individual had mentioned, the goal is to not break anything and not slide backwards. And I believe in October, I'll be able to come to you with a plan to outline to you exactly how that will happen. So I'm feeling better about that. Was not feeling great early in this process when Michelle first came to me, but I think we have a plan in place. And I do think there would be folks then, when I'm advertising this after the first of the year, there would be folks that would be looking for a different opportunity and that we could attract here to Triton. So it's a sad bit of information. Certainly Michelle has done amazing work here, and it will be very sad to see her go, but we obviously wish her the best. And I know she will also, and she has said this, and it's not fair to me not to say this out loud, she is incredibly committed to making sure that when she walks out the door, that everyone behind her is successful. So while she will be starting in a new district, I have no doubt there will be a bat phone. Amy's smiling over there. There will be a bat phone that's ringing at her side on a routine basis, sitting in her new chair. So that's just a verbal update at this point. I hope to come to you in October with more substantive plans.
Any comments or questions from the committee? Deb?
Knowing you for a long time and fairly well, you. I understand what you're saying about the amount per diem being more because of the situation, but my first concern when I was told that Michelle was leaving was that you don't need anything else on your plate and that you should do whatever you can to not become a part-time business manager again.
Make sure my button's on. I appreciate that, and I will, yes, that will be a hard thing for me to not slip back to that. But absolutely, I'm committed to that, and it will be hard. Committed to adopting the mindset that this is about survival, that people will do great things. Like we keep saying, we got to make sure the bills are coming in and getting paid. People are getting their paycheck. When there's a question asked of a vendor or a parent for transportation, that those questions get addressed. And I'm confident we can do that. In the interim, we'll have a plan in place. But I thank you for that concern, and I acknowledge it's valid.
He did just say he could walk out of here for 6 months and it'll all be fine. So.
The second part of this is
Any other comments, questions? All right. I think I speak for the committee when I say we will miss you, Michelle. You'll leave a big gap here. But I understand where you're going, and we wish you well. Bring your cowboy boots.
And there's still time to back out.
There is
Just
still
saying,
time to back
just saying.
out. This is true. All right, moving on to, we're going to invite Julie Romano up. You get the end seat for a report on the Youth Service America Service Grant Award. Please. And for those of you who haven't met Julie before, you're about to have like a wave of energy unleashed on you. Because she is. Okay, that's good.
So Julie started last year, is that correct, Julie? Yes, but I feel like she has been here forever in a good way. She has done a lot of work connecting students and faculty members to the greater community. And that was definitely an area of need that we saw, but we unfortunately did not have the resources. So met Julie. Julie stepped into that role, which was developing, and has run with it, like in a way that we could not even have imagined. And the amount of community services that our students have been involved with, and the good that they are spreading out there is just fabulous. And all of that coordination has happened through Julie's efforts. Most recently, we found out that we were one public school, which does not happen often, and I'm going to let her share this good news, that we received some funding that will allow us to continue the efforts to build community engagement between our youth and the greater community. So, Julie, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Kim. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me here, and I'm happy to be here to share good news, as always, which is good, no bad news. I do want to deflect a little of that attention away from me. We have an incredibly active group of community service kids here at the high school, run by Jennifer Scott and other members of NHS. They do a tremendous amount, nothing to do with me, so I appreciate all the comments and confidence, I guess, in my abilities. So I'm happy to be here tonight to talk a little bit about our new grant that we received over the summer and what we're going to be doing to engage more of our kids, pre-K through 12 in the district, and giving back to the greater community and engaging them in hopefully a lifelong service to others, whether it's in their personal life or professional life. The idea is to introduce them to the greater good, and that they're connected to bigger things than here in our own even little communities. So thinking globally, acting locally, as we enact these large-scale 1,500 plus volunteer days of service throughout the district. So I'm excited to share a little bit about the 9/11 project, which went very well with you all, and answer any questions you might have about the grant and anything else that's kind of coming up this year, too, that we have plans for the district. So I don't know if you had, I think you had probably read a little bit about what Brian had shared with you all about the grant itself. So we're working in collaboration with partnerships at a national level, Youth Service America, CNCS, which is the Corporation for National Community Service, the Mott Foundation, which is a charitable organization. So we have some big partners with this, which is great. So it's good news for Triton to be involved. And we were selected for the highest grant amount, which was $9,000, earmarked for $3,000 per day of community service. So $3,000 for 9/11, $3,000 for MLK Day, and then $3,000 for Global Youth Service Day. Two of the projects have specific missions that we have to abide by for the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, that they say, okay, this is great, we're going to give you this money for 9/11. Your signature project has to be about serving military or veterans, active duty or retired, or their families, the majority of the projects. And then there can be other kind of sub-projects surrounding that too for 9/11. And as many of you had heard, we had the title We Remember and We Serve, which is the plan is that we reflect on those events and then we engage in positive activity to go forth as it is a National Day of Service. MLK Day is stipulated that it is around financial literacy, and so we have some great projects already kind of brewing around those and some new partnerships that we're looking at with new banks in the area and institutions that really focus their efforts and goals around financial wellness and the financial prosperity of the communities that they land in. So they want to help in those missions, as well as some other low-cost to no-cost projects for our elementary schools that I'm just getting started with ideas, and was speaking with our national partner at Youth Service America today about that she's going to look to hopefully get the green light if we decide to go forward in that way with the elementary schools around the next project. And then Global Youth Service Day, they don't stipulate where those project funds need to, or the mission needs to be centered around. So they actually want the students hopefully to be engaged enough that they're leading their own service projects, so we can have one large district-wide project, which I happen to like a lot, and then we can have sub-programs a lot. I think all of us here at Triton this year, our mission is uniting us more as a district, and these kids are our kids from pre-K all the way to 12, so the more that we can do to kind of have that open flow of, hey guys, we're all connected, from the seniors that are leaving to the pre-K kids coming in, and that they can see from a very early stage that we're all in it together, and we want them to keep their eye on the prize, and these are all positive things that we're doing to kind of unite us as a district. So that's kind of a rundown of the grant itself. And then we have now at our disposal, which is wonderful. I went to DC in August to get training on enacting these large-scale events. It was a wonderful training and conference with a lot of great people from around the country. And where our information is then shared with these other organizations, we're looking at connecting some of our youth here, youth leaders here, with other schools that are doing these large-scale projects as well. So kids in California can chat with Triton kids and say, what went well, what didn't go well, what are you guys doing, and kind of get them connected together, because they're all promoting and doing good in their own communities and schools. And different organizations too, not many schools. Actually, there were 4 of us that were there for lead agencies from school districts. The others are partner organizations and coalition partners that deal with youth and children services. YSA produces really great materials for all of their, I can hand these around too, I need them back though, for all of their lead agencies, as well as for anyone that wants to use them. It's essentially a roadmap for anybody that is going to be engaging youth in service. So it can be a very small project. It can be from the child hosting a lemonade stand to a really grand scale, large project that high schoolers may want to do. So we have materials for our kids that we can download. These are the nice, pretty color copies. But everything from a very, I don't have the young one with me here, kind of a more simple version of this that provides our students and our teachers and our staff that work with kids materials that they can help guide the kids and teach them how do I do this? How do I, raise money for animals in the shelter down the street? And so it kind of takes them through and walks them through and teaches the children how they can actually do that, which is really, really nice. So, and it's easy because it's all spelled out for anybody that wants to do those with youth.
Can
And
I just
then-
add too that it flows so nicely with the work that the teachers did with project-based learning. So she's already been able to have opportunities to work with teachers who have that mindset and that training, and these resources really help them map out the stages of project-based learning in a way that some of the other materials were lacking. So it came at a perfect time.
It was really nice, actually. I met with a couple of teachers right away, and we looked over the materials, and they can pick and choose what they want to use, so they can give the kids a worksheet based on it, and it's at the initial stages of the project, and then when they're first investigating the project, and then during the project, the timeline for them and things they can do during the project, and then what they're going to do after the project part reflection and all of that of what went well, what didn't go well, and really engaging the kids at every level. So it fits perfectly in with that, which is great too. So, but yeah, and then we have even bigger ones that are semester of service. So if teachers wanted to, even next year, so this is not just like, oh, we're one and done and you can't have these resources next year. This is for us to utilize as a district as we want. And it's free, which is always great, and available to our teachers at any time too. So they could use this next year if one of them said, I want to really do a semester of service and do a semester-long project. How do I go about that? How do I even wrap my head around this at all stages? So these materials that they provide are wonderful as well. So, anything else you wanted me to touch on?
So I'm forgetting the name of the software. Interview?
Oh, interview. That's
just
completely separate. Did you want me to talk about that?
30 seconds. 30 seconds. It's really cool.
I'm happy to do that, Brian. Thank you. The other exciting piece that when I was at conference, we learned about this fantastic platform for students called Interview. And this is a social media platform for them that actually builds their service resume for them. And it's so simple and so magical. It was almost hard for me to believe that this is it, really? The kids can do this in a snap. And it enables them to build a community service resume that they can then have a snapshot of where their time is spent, how many hours they volunteered, and I did get our questions answered from our meeting already, any volunteer work that they do, whether it be a school posted event. So as a district, we can have our account and we post our school events that we want kids to sign up for, and then they're free to sign up for. Or if a student is active in their church or active in the boys club or any of that, that student can then take a little selfie of them, enter in a couple drop-down boxes of what the event was, what the date was, how many hours they served, a little reflection, a quick sentence or two. There's no liking, there's no hearts, there's no how many numbers did you get, did you share that? None of that. It is a simple snapshot for the students only to see their own work, how it connects to the 17 UN global goals, all things that we would all be happy to have our students working on, and where their service all lies. So it's a beautiful format for the kids. It's simple. There's actually no training for kids. They sign up and they know how to do it in like 10 seconds. It's all of the rest of us that need training on, okay, how do I enter this in and all of that. And then they can include that snapshot and that printout, their monthly printout, with a job application, with a resume. So for kids that don't have a lot of other extracurricular activities, but maybe they volunteer a lot in their community or their church, that gives them a nice snapshot of what they've done to serve and how they're actually connected to all these global goals for their employer or for their college or trade school, so that they have a nice pretty picture of themselves also to include with any of that. So it's really, really neat. We have control over what's posted on there as well as a district. We can invite other nonprofits within 40 miles to post that we trust. Like, so if we said, yes, we'd like the Y to be able to say, we need 10 volunteers for the blood drive we're having on Saturdays. Great, Triton, they're a trusted partner. They can post on our website. And then the administrators of the actual interview platform here at the district level, whether it be Jennifer Scott with the Community Service Club or the head of Student Council or NHS or any of these civic organizations that want to, the student groups that want to post are then in charge of, yep, that counts, that counts, that counts. So even though we don't have a requirement for graduation here, this still builds a really nice platform for the kids that engage in this type of activity, and it kind of gives back to them for all the hard work that they do, that they can really see, wow, I've done a lot of good here. There's kind of service awards that get posted for them, and it starts at 20 hours. So if they do 20 hours, then they kind of get like a little badge on their thing that they've gotten a little community service award too, which is nice. So, and it's through college, so they can start. It's only high school through college. There's no advertising, there's no, any of our concerns were all check, check, check. All the boxes were checked off. There's no sharing of information socially. They actually sign up for it. We don't sign them up for it. If they don't want to use it, they don't have to. It's really just to benefit our students if they would like it.
So Julie, you said that starts in high school, that elementary school students wouldn't have access to it, is that accurate?
That's correct. Actually, for the last 3 years, the interview site and corporation really just added high schoolers. They really focused on college kids prior because it was for jobs and all of that, building their resume for them when they get out of school, and then they opened it up to the last 3 years have been opened up to high schools, state ages, so it's 14 to 25.
Any other questions? Linda?
I think it's great that you're opening up to younger kids to start doing community service, because I think if you start them at such a young age to get involved with community service, it'll only grow them to continue doing it. And I want to thank you for all the great work that you've been doing with our seniors, too. I think having the kids involved with our community and our seniors has been wonderful. I want to thank you as the advocacy group committee that we have, that we suggested a couple things and you just took it on and went wild with it. And I applaud you and thank you, because you're able to reach more people and more activities than we ever could as a policy committee. So I thank you.
Just to confirm, you were talking about senior citizens, not the senior class here. Just confirming.
Correct.
Thank you. I love my senior citizens, too, so they're really great to work with. The COAs are wonderful here. We're very fortunate, very active directors, and all gangbusters to connect with our kids even more. And then our new partnerships with Salisbury Assisted Living, actually, which is a really fantastic elder home.
Yeah, that's the group that they've spoke highly of you.
I'm going to hang out here at school committee more often. Thanks, guys.
Just sort of I work at the Salisbury Assisted Living Center 2 afternoons a week, so I would, at some point, I was not aware of that. But I've been working there 2 afternoons a week for, 15 years.
So this is a newer partnership. Last spring, actually, Kim and I met in the spring to kind of forge ahead. So this year alone, we're looking at getting students, actually the music group, Sue Densmore and stuff, where we're trying to get some kids that are musicians in there. So it's a newer partnership. So it's a wonderful facility. You guys do a great job there. So, but I met with Kim in the spring, and we're moving forward with getting students in there more and celebrating things, bringing the veterans letters that the kids wrote over to the veterans that you have there. She had a couple, and just that overall, and inviting them to different events here too. So it's more a connection that the seniors have for the kids, as well as recruiting volunteers specifically to go in, but also just connecting our seniors with our students here. Like, you're welcome to come to the play. Here's the schedule. This is coming up, and we do up special invitations. That's what we've been doing with the COAs, and so Kim and I discussed doing that when they'll have the flyer for our plays and our musicals, specifically, like we invite our seniors free of charge to those, things like that. So.
Tina?
So I think you're doing great work. Are we getting Julie in front of all the schools in terms of like how do all the schools and all the staff know what she's doing? Like with staff meetings, like is she able to go and speak to them like you've come to speak to us so everyone can be aware of these programs? Because I'm sure you're so busy and tasked with so much, like you can't have, like not everyone has the bat phone to Julie to be like, hey, I want to do this and I have this idea, Julie, can you help me? But I think it's important for everyone to know that we have Julie as a resource. I know she's new, but I'm just wondering like who she's getting in front of.
So, and you can speak too about this, but when she first came on, it was obviously to create partnerships between the principals and understand her role, and her role was still developing. And so as she gets more involved in the community, in the schools, she's already been to the schools at the end of last year. She's been to the schools, I want to say a couple times this year. And we talked about going to like the PTA meetings and introducing herself there as well. So making as many connections, not just here, but outside, and then bringing people together.
Yes, so last year, right away when I started, I did go introduce myself and have meetings with all the principals, and so they are very much aware of my role. I think some of the teachers aren't sure, because it is kind of a broad role. It's, I'm creating initiatives and programs kind of in different areas, everything from the elementary school and getting a dog in to Newbury Elementary, because I saw that Salisbury had one when I was there one day, and I said, this is great. Newbury, do you have one? No, we don't. Okay, so I filled out the application and get it. So it's kind of just a little of this and a little of that. So as we've gone along, my role has kind of changed, and I think that people are starting to. Teachers reached out to me at the end of the year and said, oh, I'd like to bring my biology class to life by bringing in a medical personnel. I was like, okay, we'll get you somebody. So we brought in a physical therapist, things like that. So I just kind of, I'm a connector to a lot. So they're becoming aware, which is good. I haven't gone before, like a staff meeting even here at the high school or whatnot. It was kind of like, I'm behind the scenes, which is good. So I think they're starting to see that now, especially with the large-scale 9/11 plan, and hopefully moving forward, actually, MLK Day and Global Youth Service Day, those are supposed to be student-led projects, so that's what we hope to get on board, is engaging the teachers more that have the students to do that. So that's the plan anyway, and then I think people will reach out more as they know what's happening, like all the different service plans we did last year.
Yeah, we don't want to overwhelm you, but I just want everyone to know that we have the Julie and what she's doing, because I'm curious what's surrounding, not that it matters so much, but it does in a way, to compare what other districts are doing or not doing, what Triton's doing. Like, that's my focus. I want them to be like, wow, they have that there. I didn't know that, and that's wonderful.
Yeah, I would, without doing extensive research, I would venture to say other districts don't have a resource like Julie. And so I think our approach has been fairly strategic in that naturally, when a teacher is responsible for so much during the day, anything we put in front and say, hey, we're adding, the automatic reaction is, that's great, but I need to do my math, I need to do my science. So we've been kind of strategic in saying, this is just organically, Julie's presence has grown as she's been known to just, someone can say, like you just the example, I would love to have a fill in the blank in anywhere less than 24 hours, but somewhere within 5 minutes at times, Julie fulfills the request. So that's the key in rolling this out, is that she's a resource, that everyone growingly is more aware of her role, but not to necessarily put her in front of a faculty meeting and saying, this is what we're doing. Yeah.
Although I'd like not to like death by meeting for you, but it would be it would be cool, I think, to put you in front of the PTAs, because that would be another group of advocates that you're not overwhelming the faculty, but they could then partner with you to help you do your job, because they're already wanting to get involved. So if you haven't been able to go to any, I'm on the PTA this year at Pine Grove, so you should come to one of our meetings.
I would love that. Actually, last year I did meet with Salisbury's PTA and Newbury's PTA, and we do, like when they had an event, they reached out to me to say, hey, can you send this to your community partners and like that too. So we haven't really collaborated on a lot of, but I would love that. And so this year, moving forward, I think that's a great idea to kind of re-energize that connection.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to stop talking, so.
So you shut yourself down?
That's called self-regulation.
Any other questions for Julie?
If I could say briefly too, just one other thing. Briefly,
That's what I meant.
I'll be brief. I'm like, brief. I know. I'll bring it down a notch. We also our collaboration for this grant and our coalition partner is like Essex County Asset Builder Network, which we all know. So all of this kind of work that I'm doing, so you guys all have the big picture, is around the 40 assets and those things that were kind of a little lower scored for our students here in the district. So we are trying to focus our initiatives around those 40 assets, the ones that scored lower, and then working with our community partners and other local school districts. So Amesbury actually partnered with us on this. I didn't actually have contact with anybody at Amesbury, but Tina Lose from ECAB handled that piece and that connection for me. She's like, tell me what to do, I'll get it to them. And they did, and they wrote 500 letters there as well to add to our numbers for volunteers. So the 1,500 per day volunteer sounds like a lot, but we crushed it. It was 2,300 that we had all together. So it was great with all the kids involved. So we're doing all that reporting now. So yeah, it's good.
Any other comments or questions for Julie? All right. So I just want to put this in perspective. Julie is part-time. This is not a full-time job. So she's doing a phenomenal amount of work. You keep hearing, oh, she's doing Snow Angels. Oh, she's doing this. Oh, she's doing, she is a part-time position. And Julie's actually funded through revenues from Kids Club, the before school and after school program, which is a great way to make use of some of those revenues, is to bring on something like that to help essentially boost all of our students in the district. So phenomenal amount of work.
Thank you. Well, I'm happy. And it started as the 15 hours, and then Essex County Asset Builder Network funds 10 hours. So I'm 25 here at the district, so I don't go to any other real schools or anything like that through Essex County. We bought in here at Triton with kind of getting me on board to support those 40 assets and what was lacking. And then they said, okay, that's great. Now she could cover the other 3 school districts in a manner that they could do as well. So it was 25 hours there, which goes through December right now, so that's good.
If I could get done in 25 hours, what you're getting done in 25 hours. All right, any other comments, questions? All right, thank you, Julie.
Thank you,
Good night.
Julie. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. Good night. All right, moving on to, let's see, we're at 8E, appointment to the Whittier Regional Technical School Committee. So you have a copy of an email in your packet that unfortunately you received from Alana Conti. She is moving to New Hampshire and will be unable to complete her term. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Term on the Whittier School Committee. My proposal to you is going to be that we post the position, advertise the same way that we did in the past, towards the end of this month. So in the coming, basically, week. And then, yeah, tomorrow, exactly. Basically, looking for letters of interest by the end of October so that we could bring those back to the November meeting and hopefully make an appointment there. She has kindly offered to continue to serve there until we can appoint a replacement. So there's no big rush on this, but obviously this is a situation. I mean, she's trekking from New Hampshire, somewhere up in New Hampshire to... Okay, not that far, but still. It is. I don't know why...
Yeah. Name's Gilbert.
It used to be Conti. Does she still go by Conti? No, she goes by Gilbert. All right.
She signed it, Gilbert.
Yes. What? Changing people's names. Okay. So any objection to that plan? I know it's a tough time of year. I feel like this is the time where no one's willing to volunteer for anything because the beginning of the school year, especially if you have kids in the district, is like the crush time. But I'm hopeful we can hopefully bring some people on board. This does have to be a Salisbury representative. So if any of you Salisbury folks know any potential candidates for the position that might be interested, that would be great. All right. Yeah.
So how is it going to be advertised?
So last time we put it out in on social media, Triton social media. We put it out in the weekly digest. Now it was that version of the weekly digest at that point, and then also put it in the Daily News.
Okay. I was just, would it be advertised at Whittier, looking for a Salisbury parent? No?
I don't think we did in the past.
They haven't in the past, because it's you appoint that person, so we have better communication to the sorry. Do I have to start over? So the person is appointed by you as the committee. You have better access to the residents of Salisbury, to the town of Salisbury, than Whittier does, because it's a select handful of students that would be coming from that town. So we've generally done that.
Okay.
So any issues? All right, we'll go with that then.
All right.
Moving on to item F, monthly report of the superintendent of schools.
After a very busy August report, this report is very quick. And again, this was the original report from the September 11th meeting that was postponed. So just to report that we had a great school opening. It was fairly uneventful. Everyone came back. Everyone seems to be in good spirits. Mostly as I'm walking around, visiting classrooms, visiting schools, it's been a very smooth opening. You are aware that there was a student who passed away, whose mom is the music teacher at Newbury, so that was certainly a very difficult blow to the Newbury community. So that's certainly something that set everyone back, and that was an awful situation. So aside from that, it has been relatively uneventful now, roughly through the first month of school. Update on the stadium, the track in repair, or in track and field repair. We are waiting to hear. They are intending to fix, you remember there's two areas, the end oval D area and then along the wall. We're anticipating it's going to be very short notice, because it's the company that does the track surfacing basically says, all right, I'll be there next week. So David White & Sons is working with them, and we'll be getting that inside repair done, inside 2 lanes of the loop, the D area and the corner of the field in the coming weeks. The outside wall is going to be delayed. We're still working with the engineer through David White & Sons, our engineer, and then the wall engineer, because that wall is continuing to settle. So it's settling inches, not fractions of inches, and it's continuing to settle. So from 16 to 17, 17 to 18, 18 to 19. Most recently, was that 3 weeks ago? They shot it again. They surveyed it again. So that all those points are showing to varying degrees, especially on that. If you're looking out toward the left pole, that wall is settling vertically. It's not falling away. Literally, I think it's like 1/8 of an inch it's moved, but vertically it has dropped 3-4 inches over the span. So working on the best solution there and what that would entail. Ultimately, David White is committed to fixing it. We want to wait until it's done moving and fix it once and correctly, and then we will be done. Any questions about that? I know several folks have mentioned that. The comprehensive facilities assessment that is being done here, we're still, that's underway, working closely with Michelle and Chris Walsh, obviously. We anticipate a draft report by November 15th. Before Michelle leaves, and then once we have a chance to meet and review and go over that and provide feedback, they would produce a final report by December 15th. This is going to be the first step, I think, of many discussions about how we address the needs at this building. It's not going to be small figures. The question will be, do we want to fund things piecemeal, or do we want to entertain a process by which we can do a project that would address all of the concerns and receive in the ballpark of 50% reimbursement from the state through the MSBA. So that's certainly something that is going to be handled through discussions and years down the road, but this will be the first step to have that quantified exactly what the needs are. Pine Grove update, I apologize, this is still the incorrect report. I thought we put the corrected one in here. This is Saturday, October 3rd. It's Saturday, October 5th is the grand reopening of Pine Grove School. Now we're 2 weeks later. The building is relatively done, we'll say. It's substantial completion. The outside, the landscaping is happening slowly as we speak. The inside is now down to punch lists, hoping that by November 1st, all the punch lists are done. Substantially punched by October 5th. which is the open house. There won't be grass growing out front yet, but everything will be seeded and loamed, and beds will be planted and mulched. So I certainly encourage everyone to come and see the new Pine Grove if you haven't, because besides the outside and the shape and the brick, it is a completely new building. So, and then finally, you probably saw, several of you as parents, we surveyed parents at the high school, and I believe you saw a copy of that survey in regards to changing graduation to Friday night. This has been something that I've heard folks in guidance and at the high school talk about for many years. Some schools have shifted to a Friday night. I have a daughter who's graduating on the same day as Triton as it is on the calendar now, so I won't be at graduation. So the discussion was, well, hey, if everyone wants to talk about this, now's a great time to check. So we did send out a survey. As of right now, there's only 166 responses from parents, which is roughly a quarter of the high school. So we're trying to figure out how to garner some more support, or some more response, I should say. As of right now, it's a 2-to-1 in favor of a Friday night. The reasons that folks have given for not having it on Friday, keeping it on Saturday, are two major things. One being travel. Getting family into town for a Saturday event is much easier than for a Friday night. And also that day, that Friday, would be an incredibly busy, packed day because of the way we do the awards assembly in the morning and then the junior senior breakfast. So we have committed to saying we will make a determination of what we're recommending to you as the committee to change the calendar, as that would be a vote of the committee, by the October 16th meeting, which is in 3 weeks. So I have not had a chance to, Patrick and I have been running in other directions for the last 2 days, but we are hoping we will have a decision for you by October 16th in regards to what our recommendation will be. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
Maureen?
I just have a comment about the graduation thing. I don't know if it's already been considered, but maybe tomorrow evening is the high school open house. Maybe having Patrick mention the survey and encouraging parents to fill it out if they haven't already done so.
And even,
it's a
I didn't
great
thought about
time
that, but
to
even
catch.
having a bank of 10 Chromebooks sitting in the lobby to say, if you haven't, please fill this out.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
because
That's a great idea.
like the one night a year that I see the most parents come in this
Absolutely.
building.
That's a
so,
great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Any other comments or questions? Deb?
Not about graduation, but about your presentation at convocation. At the main point that Brian made at convocation was to not put as much, I think, was to not put as much emphasis on comparing ourselves to this district, or what is that district doing, and that kind of thing, and talked about being the best that we can be, and in every area improving on what we have had in the past and going forward that way. And I think that was a really good thing to keep in mind, because you can spend a lot of time and energy saying, well, what are they doing over there? What are they doing over there? It's not that it's not a good thing to know, but I think it's very important that everyone, whatever it is you're doing, you just do it better than you did it yesterday.
Well said.
Any other comments or questions? So I brought this up with Brian before, but I just wanted to voice it publicly, that looking at the personnel report, there's a disclosure per policy GBEA. Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
I did, thank you,
or-
thank
yeah.
you. So, so it is policy GBEA in your manual, not your manual, your policy manual, that speaks about if an employee cannot be hired by someone who is directly responsible for his or her supervision and or evaluation. However, it also speaks to if an employee of a close family member of an administrator, high-level administrator, is hired, that we should disclose that to the committee. So we don't have a real reporting format. So in this case, Adele Nealand was hired not at Pine Grove, where Christine is the principal, but at Newbury Elementary as a one-on-one assistant. So that is in the report, disclosing to you that relationship exists between an employee and an administrator, but they are not in the same building, so there is no supervision and evaluation complication there.
I wanted to note that. Makes me feel a little uncomfortable, just the whole relationship thing in the district, but I understand IAs are very difficult to come by right now, and she is very qualified. And Beth had apparently made the comment that she would have hired her anyway, even if there was no relationship obviously there, so.
Yeah, and that certainly, anytime this happens, my push will always be, if they're the right person, then we move forward. If they're not the right person, this is not about favors. So, not that we can get in publicly talking about the qualifications of someone, but this is very much a qualified hire.
Deb?
Is there, I haven't read that policy, but if, is there anything in the policy that says that a person should not be supervised by an immediate family member?
It cannot be.
They cannot be, okay.
be.
That's,
Yep.
yeah.
So
Okay.
basically, if they cannot be, so then really, as the superintendent, none of my family members could technically be, because I'm going to supervise someone that supervises my immediate family member. So it's that chain of command. So within different schools, it's safe. At the district office, it gets complicated, right, for any of our kids or spouses or other people. No, gonna hire anybody, are you? No one's looking for a job. We're good.
That's good.
All right.
Excellent. All right, do we need a vote on that? No. Okay. So we've already done the parking lot fundraiser, so moving on to appointing an official voting delegate and alternate to MASC delegates meeting. So Linda and I are the only two attendees to that meeting. So one of us is going to be the appointee and the other one, or the delegate, and the other one is going to be the alternate. So I don't know how you feel about being the delegate. How do you feel about that? You'll be the delegate?
It's fine.
All right, excellent. Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to nominate Linda Lukovsky as the delegate to the MSC conference.
I'll second that.
Quick. Any discussion? All in favor? Excellent.
The only two going to the conference.
We, other than you. Oh, wait. Paul might be, yes.
Put my microphone on.
No.
Couldn't hear you.
So Polly's may have a work conflict. If he doesn't, he wanted to go. He was trying to determine whether that was going to be an issue for him or not. So, but as of right now, the only two, maybe I should say that the only two confirmed people who are going. All right. And moving on with that, the MASC proposed resolutions. Traditionally, what we've done is we've provided some guidance to the delegate going into the meeting on any strong views we have on the way that we'd like them to vote, or any commentary that we hope that they would provide during the delegates meeting. There's obviously delegates from quite a few school districts that are going in there, so it's a big meeting. It's not something that there's really extended debate, my understanding is, between a couple of people. This is,
I know,
you know,
they're
get up, say
very-
your piece, and sit back down sort of
They're very
deal.
pushy.
Yes. So I honestly didn't have any strong feelings about any of the resolutions that were in here. I don't know if anybody else had some strong feelings. I know in the past it's kind of been if there's been strong feelings, speak them now. If not, it's to the best judgment of the delegate who attends. So, anyone? No? Deb?
No, I don't. Generally, the resolutions over the years have all been things that you would not object to if they happened. Yes, they're not. But also, we have another meeting before that conference, if anybody.
Yeah. We can absolutely put that back on in October too. That's a good option. So I'm going to table that vote then. I think that's actually a good idea, is to table that vote. Yep. And then we'll put it back on in October. Yeah, and hold the official vote then. And that will hopefully also give us the feedback from Dina and Polly's as well, because they should be hopefully back by then. Paul is coming back, I'm pretty sure. All right. Moving on to item D, the pilot stipend job description approval.
So this is a rework of an existing stipend in the teacher's contract. As we, in the middle school, used to have teams. We had team leaders. So you have both the copy in your packet of the original team leader job description, as well as a reworked grade level leader. So there are certainly still duties that it made sense, and you can see them outlined in the job description, to have as someone as a stipended position for the grade level, similar to having a program coordinator at the high school by department to coordinate the 7-8 teachers per discipline. So so this is, I mean, I can certainly answer questions, but this is being proposed as a pilot arrangement. We met with the middle school union representatives, along with Sue Densmore and Sarah Scruton as the president and vice president, and agreed this description. It's a start. It doesn't have any legal standing beyond this year. We're going into negotiations, as you well know, and so the thought would be, if this is working, this is something we would then codify through the formal negotiations process. However, since it is a contractual stipend, and really job description, we felt it was appropriate to have you come and just take a vote to support that, or not support that. But my recommendation is that you support that.
Any questions or comments? Paul?
I do have a comment. That first duty, meet with administration to discuss and provide meaningful feedback, that duty seems to have been encapsulated in a few different sorts of descriptions prior, or at least some of that.
Yep.
And as a pilot, obviously this is something that's being tested out, but I would have a concern as a teacher looking at this stipend that is very vague and could easily balloon or collapse very easily.
Yep.
So I would hope that as it's piloted, some flesh is given to that.
Yes, I agree. And that was certainly number one for a reason, and one we discussed at length. You know, specifically the changes with the schedule and the alignment with the high school, as we've said time and time again, really ended up being that it's the high school schedule that the middle school adjusted to, and that worked for everyone. So that was a mutual decision, but there's implications at the middle school. So that was one of the big things that we said, look, let's get around the table once a month and just say, how is it going for you in science? It was in the 7th grade and in the 8th grade. And so that's one of the key things. But certainly it's something that I think it's an opportunity to meet once a month to get around the table. If it's not needed, the meeting wouldn't have to happen. But also, there's also the concern would be, and this is probably similar to a program coordinator too, we have in the contract the faculty senate that we negotiated 3 years ago through the contract and haven't funded yet because we haven't figured out how to fund that. So that would be, it's a $50,000 cost because it's 5 appointments per building to sit on a faculty senate that are charged with representing the teacher's body in regards to things that are not necessarily academic in nature, but the functioning of the school and culture. So that certainly needs to be teased out. That's a well-received point. It's something that will be watched, absolutely. Yep.
Any other comments? Questions? No? Can I get a motion to approve the job description as presented as a pilot arrangement for the 2019-2020 school year, please?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All right. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we all spent a lovely, cozy Saturday morning together in early September, reviewing our 2019-2020 school committee goals, which are the next topic on the agenda. So these are the goals that came out of the discussions at that workshop. It is different from the past in that in the past we have typically had multiple goals with multiple action items. We have a lot going on. We felt that a more strategic focus was going to be something that better served both the committee and the district as a whole moving forward, because we want to be able to do it and do it well, rather than necessarily doing a lot. So the overarching goal is we will further develop our advocacy on behalf of all students by educating the community on our roles as committee members, as well as the financial and programmatic needs of our students. And there are 4 actions paired with evidence that are below that in the packet. Let's start by getting a motion to approve the school committee goals for the 2019-2020 school year as drafted and presented, please.
I make a motion.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, and any discussion on these? No, this is pretty much exactly as we said it in the workshop, so no surprises here. All right, all in favor? All right, excellent, thank you. And moving on to item F, the 2019-2020 Superintendent Evaluation Approval of Goals, please.
So I have tried to continue that theme and mirror simplicity. If you were to take last year's goals and look at this year's, you'll notice that I've trimmed down the actions. There's going to be a lot going on this year as replacing Michelle and also have begun the process of finding, not really a replacement because it's not possible, but the person who's going to sit in Patty's seat when she retires as of November 30th. So certainly it's a busy year going on, but I tried to align my goals specifically. You'll see the difference is I took the district goal right from the strategy that I'd be addressing along with the conditions for success. So you can see the student learning goal applies to 1, 2, and 5, instructional practice, curriculum, and resources. The district goal is that will strengthen current instructional practices by using aligned curriculum to effectively engage and facilitate learning for all students across all curricular areas, regardless of ability. So this was one that I believe we spoke about when in the spring at one of the meetings in regards to advanced level coursework. I think that we spend a lot of time talking about interventions and strategies for students who are struggling, who are below grade level, but we need to talk about opportunities for those students who are capable and are capable beyond the standard expectations. So that's obviously much easier at the high school level when we can offer CP classes as well as honors and AP classes. At the middle school, that's a little more difficult. And then at the elementary, that's obviously far more difficult. So an example, we have 5 students now, I believe, this year in the 7th grade who are taking algebra, which is an 8th grade class. So starting to work on, again, the schedule, having the opportunities for students to make those changes. So that's a goal this year, is to continue to place a priority on that and report out to you by the end of the year with a very clear presentation to you on what we've been able to make changes on, such as what I just explained about the algebra opportunity, as well as new things that we may have put into place this year, or those things that we're planning for next year. And then also, obviously, we would be on the other side of the budget, so if there are things that would have budget implications, and I can tell you there absolutely will be, that whether or not those things will be feasible. Second goal in regards to professional practice, basically it's find a really good new Michelle and a good new Patty. So I won't read through this, but that is the goal, is to finish this year and have 2 people in place that are capable of continuing the amazing work these 2 women have done. As far as a district improvement goal, this is, I had shared with you, actually this was, I guess, on the Saturday workshop in regards to the changing thoughts about the technology committee. And I'm actually going to read this. This is Deb Jones, the director of technology, and I have been kind of wordsmithing, because we don't want to use words like committees and reports because it seems routine and mundane. So this is where we're at right now. Technology is transforming our world in our personal lives and in our work and educational settings. As the calendar changes to 2020 in less than 3 months, we're excited to bring together a group of invested stakeholders to rethink our vision for the role technology plays in our schools. With student, teacher, parent, and administrators as contributors, the charge of this working group is to shape a vision of the necessary skills, competencies, and traits that our students need to thrive in our digital world. Using that standard, the group will measure our past practices around technology offerings and implementation to most effectively determine next step towards making that design a reality. While we all need to live within our means and confines, the hope is that this group will develop a bold, fresh, and innovative blueprint for the way technology can further strengthen our effectiveness in preparing, our students for a world where technology is embedded in everything we do. So that's not yet ready to be put out there, but that's what we're thinking. And I have this as a goal, because this is really something I want to, the technology committees have existed forever, and they ebb and flow, and then we have a report and it talks about how many devices and our infrastructure, and we've Kim and Deb and I were speaking, and they've done incredible work as far as their infrastructure, our connectivity, our security, as much as we complain daily about two-factor authentication when you have to log in and also tap your phone or get a text. It's important because routinely you're sitting with people in other schools and they're getting hacked and there's ransomware. So we're in a great technical standpoint, but we don't yet have that vision about these and how these are used to improve the educational experience of students. So that by the end of the year, we keep saying it's not a plan, is it a blueprint, whatever that document will be. Couldn't tell you if it's 5 pages or 100 pages, but we'll have a very different angle beyond just a list of devices, but really speak to the reason and the purpose behind technology, and then a plan of how we're going to get there. Simple as, just the thing that keeps coming up over and over again. Districts have talked about the one-to-one. How do we get to one-to-one? Right now, we're roughly 2-to-1, carts on devices or devices on carts. Getting to a one-to-one, there are districts who have outright purchased MacBooks for every child. There are districts who do a Mac purchase program. There are PCs, there are laptops, there are Chromebooks. But we need to be in a place where we can say, we're using these, they're an effective learning tool, teachers are committed to using them on a routine basis before we're going to suggest to anyone that you should go buy this device. And I believe Triton Education Foundation is in a place where they would be willing to be the fundraiser for those. If we have a one-to-one initiative where we're suggesting parents purchase a specific device, TEF is interested in being that partner to say, okay, we'll keep fundraising towards that bank of whatever, a quarter of the population, a third of the population that can't afford the device, and so we would be loaning them one. So we would have to keep a fresh inventory on hand. So that is my third goal, is that to have that plan, that blueprint, that whatever it will be called, presented to you before the end of the school year.
All right, comments and questions? Nobody?
Nothing?
Nothing. They got nothing for you. Deb, she's got a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the superintendent's goals.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'll just say congratulations on finally winnowing these down, because I feel like I've been saying for the last 5 years, this is too much. You're taking on too much. It's just almost undoable. I know you're superhuman, but it's undoable.
Appreciate
so
you.
congratulations on winnowing it down.
That's right, Mr. Thank you. Not tonight, it's tomorrow.
All right, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
And moving on to subcommittee reports and action items, policy and advocacy. Linda, don't forget to turn your mic on.
Okay, we have I don't know if I can find it. Thank you. We have a remote participation at school committee meetings, if everybody has had a chance to review that. We have come up with one that I think accommodates someone who can't be at a meeting. So, does anybody have any questions on it?
I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve as a first reading the policy on remote participation at school committee meetings as approved by the Policy and Advocacy Subcommittee at its meeting on September? Dang it.
Start over.
Start over. Can I get a motion to approve as a first reading the policy on remote participation at school committee meetings as approved by the Policy and Advocacy Subcommittee at its meeting on September 4th, 2019, please?
I'll make a motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. And general and long-term funds investment policy?
You want to talk about this? Yes. So, I don't know if you want to talk about this. So, there is a policy in our manual about OPEB trust funds.
I apologize. I forgot that was ours, too.
So this, I was watching the look. So we have, the MASC manual has an OPEB trust fund investment policy. Again, for most districts, unless you're a region, you don't have to worry about investment policy because you're not the fiduciary of funds, it's the town or city side. So this is something that There was a model that MASC provided. Actually, Amy and Michelle worked with Bartholomew, who I believe we mentioned before is our new investment house. And so they actually have this model that's been used in other districts, and it's more restrictive. So we're saying to you, make it more restrictive, more very clear confines of what Amy as the treasurer can and cannot do when she's investing funds. So again, lots of legalese, but this is based on the recommendation of Amy as the treasurer with Bartholomew as our investment advisor.
All right, any questions or comments before we? Nope. Can I get a motion to approve? Can I get a motion to approve as a first reading the policy on general and long-term funds investment policy statement as approved by the Policy and Advocacy Subcommittee at its meeting on September 4th, 2019?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? All right, excellent. Moving on to finance. Deborah.
Deborah, you kind of already heard a summary of the Finance Subcommittee meeting when Amy was here. Michelle was speaking earlier. It says that our next meeting is September 25th, and that was correct when this was written. We did have a meeting today where we wrapped up, Michelle wrapped up for us the FY19 numbers. One of the things that's been, I think, very interesting to me is the revolving accounts and how that has become better. That's a very good thing. So anyway, this time of year, we're kind of, meetings are not too long. So anyway, our next meeting is October 23rd, actually. That's our next meeting. So I don't know if, probably no questions.
Excellent. Maureen, you're the only PNN person here.
Yikes.
I don't think you've met though, have you? So you don't really
We
have
met
somebody- Oh, you
once.
did.
I'm
Okay.
the newbie, so I really don't know what to say. I mean, we did meet once last week, right?
Yep.
Was it last week? And we are meeting, well,
Do you want me to?
we haven't really even picked a chair yet, right?
I'm going to take you, I'll get you off the hook. Yeah, so Dina was not available at the meeting, very last minute, so Paula and Maureen met. There is a coup in place to elect a new chair or to force the new chair, so we'll see who the chair is.
It's
but
not
yeah,
going to be me.
But it's not Maureen. Not by definition. So the next meeting is scheduled for October 15th at 3 o'clock with the Personnel Negotiation Subcommittee, and then meeting with the TRTA at 4 o'clock.
Right.
So that will be a kind of a setting the scene, ground rules, first meeting. I can tell you that Sue is polling her executive team, of the negotiations team, with I think there was 76 Tuesdays and Thursdays, or 67 Tuesdays and Thursdays between now and April, so that when we get to the table, they'll know their availability, and then the PNN and we can confirm which dates and get a bunch of dates on the calendar right up front, and get rolling with negotiations.
Right. And we're still waiting on the community member, which will be, or the town representative, yeah.
Yeah, so
It'll be DCC October 10th, right?
Yes, so I sent that letter per regulation to the chairs of the boards of selectmen, and Patty will remind me, I'll call each of the town administrators and just make sure that the chairs received that letter and that they can just confirm who's going to be showing up. So when Patty reminds me to do that, I'll make those calls, and then that determination will be made on on October 10th, and the first meeting on the 15th.
Yep.
Yes.
And just to confirm, the actual statute, when we read it, it's not the full DCC that actually gets to have a say in it. It is the chief executive officer of the municipality, which in all three of our towns are the chair of the Board of Selectmen or their delegate. So it's really going to be three people sitting with Brian in having that conversation and letting him know who the appointee is going to be from among their number. So.
And was that going to be done before the DCC started, if I remember
So we'll do that at 6:15.
Yeah,
At the
okay.
6:30 start,
Yeah.
so we'll just post it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Good job. See, it's not that hard.
well done.
Oh, and can I just update? So, and I know Dina would want the update known. So at the end of last year, we talked about me taking the survey, my survey, evaluation survey, and aligning it to the standards. Dina wanted to take this on. There's a new superintendent rubric that was revised, I think it was July or August of 19. She's going to take that and align the survey to that new rubric so that there's that alignment and that we'd be prepared well before the end of the school year. Use that.
All right. In your correspondence, you will find a letter dated August 28th from the Executive Director of the Mass Association of School Committees notifying us that our nomination for the Triton Regional Elementary School PTAs as Outstanding School Partners for 2019 was awarded to our PTAs, which is terrific. I have spoken to them. They are elated, just over the moon, because most of them had no idea that we had even done that. So to find out that they won without even knowing they had been nominated was a wonderful thing. They were very excited. In speaking to them, Glenn, the executive director, had given them the option of going to Hyannis during the conference to accept their award or scheduling something up here. They cannot make it to Hyannis because that is a hike for the probably 20 minutes that they would, need to be there. So they determined that they would rather have it done up here. I floated 3 dates with the PTAs. They said all 3 of them were clear, so we brought those back to Glenn. He's chosen our December 11th meeting as the time that he's going to present that. So MASC will have a representative here. I don't know if it will be Glenn or somebody else. And then the PTAs, I believe, are all attending, but we're going to submit 3 names to Glenn for the actual receipt of the award. And then we'll do photographs and that sort of thing here as well. So that'll be done at our December 11th meeting. So, and congratulations to PNA who initiated that nomination process, because that was nicely done and very much appreciated. All right, and that brings us to the close of the night. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Thank you all for your time, and I will see you on the 16th.